All right, hi everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to really help you, and read with you Act One of our graphic novel version of Macbeth. So, if you're ready, go ahead and listen up and try to answer your questions at the same time. I'm not going to answer the questions, but I am going to read for you. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up the graphic novel version. As I go through, I will, though, kind of explain some things to help you guys out, because I've had some requests with that. And so I want to make sure you guys have everything you need. So, my suggestion is if you need to have a brief summary of what's happening, read the summary. All right. So, if you feel confused about what's happening in the scene, remember a summary is provided for you. Excuse me. All right. Now, let's look. We read scene one together. And remember, in scene one, this is when the witches, we read this. Actually, you read it, I'm sorry, for a warm up. And so I'm not going to read it again. Well, you know what? How about I do read it? Okay. So we have Act One. Ooh, very spooky. I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller so you guys can see things at the same time. All right. Act One, Scene One. When shall we three meet again in thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the turmoil of battle is complete, when one side has won and the other has lost. So remember, in this opening scene, this is when we have weather that is chaotic and out of order. All right, this is giving us a foreshadowing or a precursor of what's to come. That will happen before sunset. Where should we meet? On the open wasteland, there to meet with Macbeth. So as we can see, this is when we have already heard our tragic hero's name, Macbeth. Remember, this is called the tragedy of Macbeth. So we have the witches here talking about when they are going to meet Macbeth. Okay, so we see the image of a frog and a cat. I come, Grand Malcolm. Right? And then the frog says, well, I'm sorry, the other witch says, coming, coming. And it says, Paddock calls me. Okay, so we have these spirits of these animals, and they all say, fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air. All right, so this is where we see the witches saying good is bad and bad is good, speaking in a paradox, and they're hovering in the fog and they're hovering in the filthy, dirty air. So that dirty atmosphere. So remember when we talked about the chain of being, that from the top, if something is going to affect everything, it's going to affect all of nature, and nature will be evil. Mm. All right, so we X out of this. We're going to go to Act One, Scene Two now. All right. All right. So remember, this is in forest outside of where there is a war going on. Okay. Here we have the king. All right, King Duncan. He says, "Who is this bloody man? Judging from his appearance, I assume he can tell us the latest news of the revolt." All right. So this is an injured captain, father. So this is not really his father. But he honors. Um, well, I'm sorry, that is one of the king's sons. So let's read it. It says, Father, this is the good sergeant who fought to keep me from being captured. Brave friend, tell the king the state of the battle as you left it. Okay. So they're going to talk about, so this captain or this sergeant is going to give the update of what happened during the battle. All right, so this is that injured captain, and he's talking. And back behind here, we see He is having a flashback. So all of this in the background is the flashback, and it's what he's describing. For a time, you couldn't tell who would win. McDonald rebels and your Majesty's armies were like two exhausted swimmers, clinging to each other and thrashing in the sea. The villainous rebel McDonald had foot soldiers and horsemen from Ireland and the Hebrides, and the goddess Fortune smiled cruelly at his enemies like a rebel's horde. But all those forces weren't strong enough. Scorning fortune, brave Macbeth swung his bloody, smoking sword against the battlefield till he found MacDonald. He didn't stop to say farewell or to shake his hand before he split him open from navel to jawbone and stuck his head on our castle walls. Now you know that's serious, right? So here we have where Macbeth he has won. He has defeated McDonald. He cuts him open almost like a fillet of a fish, right? A fillet of fish, and he stuck his head on here. Okay. Now, right here, we get a glimpse of how brave and what a warrior Macbeth is. My brave kinsman, O worthy Macbeth. Did I skip something? Let's make sure I didn't. Okay, I did not. Wonderful. My brave kinsman, O worthy Macbeth, but your majesty, just as the violent storms arrive when spring appears, our success against MacDonald created new problems for us. As soon as we sent those Irish mercenaries running for cover, the Norwegian king saw his chance to attack us with fresh troops and new polished weapons. Didn't that frighten our captains, Macbeth and Banquo? So remember, here is where the king is responding because, as the captain is saying, Macbeth, even when that happened, it didn't stop them, and they just, came back with weapons. And so the captain's saying, well, didn't it stop the captains, Macbeth and Banquo? Wouldn't that slow them down? And so let's see if it did. Now, remember, as we look right here, this is Macbeth and this is Banquo. It says, as much as sparrows frighten eagles or rabbits frighten a lion, truthfully, they fought this new enemy with twice as much force, like cannons loaded with double ammunition. They came back stronger. It says, perhaps they wished to bathe in their enemy's blood or make that battlefield as infamous as Golgotha where Christ was crucified. I don't know, but I'm faint. My wounds cry for nursing. So he's like, hey, maybe they're trying to make it bloody as I don't know what, but it didn't stop him. And of course, he needs help. He's hurting. He's injured. The king responds, your words like your wounds bring you honor. Go take him to the surgeons. Who is this? The worthy Thane of Ross. How frantic his eyes look. He looks like a strange man with a strange tale to tell. God save the king. Where have you come from, worthy Thane? All right, so we have right here, we have Lennox and Ross. So they're coming in, and remember, these are the sons. So the king is like, who are these people? And the sons are saying, he looks like he has a story to tell, right? And so they're going to tell him something. So it says, where have you come from, worthy Thane? It says, great king, I've come from Fife, where the Norwegian flag flies, mocking our country and leaving our people cold with fear, with an enormous army, and assisted by the disloyal traitor, the Thane of Calder. The king of Norway began an ominous battle. But then Macbeth, clad in his battle-weathered armor, met their attacks shot for shot, as if he were the very bridegroom of the goddess war. Finally, he broke the enemy's spirit, and they were victorious. All right, so we have several things happening here. Number one, we have where Lennox and Ross and Lennox have shared that The first Thana Carter was a traitor, and so, but Macbeth, he is standing victorious in this battle, and so once again, we're seeing where Macbeth is presented as a hero at this point. Great happiness. So now Swino, the Norwegian king, wants a treaty. We wouldn't even allow him to bury his men until he retreated to the St. Combs Inch and paid us $10,000. So, as we can see here, the king is happy, of course, about how Macbeth stood up and was a hero, and that old Thana Carter, who was the traitor, is gone. And they're trying to basically have where there's a payment or a fee happening. So let's see what the king says. The Thane Carter shall never again betray me. Go announce his execution. That means go kill him. Okay. It says, and then tell Macbeth that all Carter's former titles now belong to him. What Carter has lost, the noble Macbeth has won. I see it done. Ooh, story getting juicy. So what we see is the old Theta Carter was a traitor. He's gonna be killed. So now Macbeth becomes the new Thana Carter. We see also an allusion to or a reference to the previous statement where the witches talk about someone winning and someone losing. And now we see where the Thana Carter has lost, but Macbeth has won, right? So we're seeing glimpses of what the witches have started to prophesy. All right, let's go to the next page. See if we have anything else. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that was 9. Let's see, did we get through all of scene 2? Yes, we did. Okay, I'm going to pause for a moment. We are going to move to scene 3. All right, so let's go to scene 3 now. Let's see if we can get there. Righty. Okay, let's look at it. Act 1, scene 3. Once again, we're back to the witches, y'all. All right, it says, where have you been, my sister? So they're talking to each other like that. Now let's see. You got to get back into the atmosphere of the witches. Killing swine. And you, sister? Now, why they have these blindfolds, I don't know. It says, a sailor's wife had chestnuts in her lap and munched and munched and munched on them. Give me one, I said. Get away from me, witch. The mangy, fat-bottomed creature cried. Her husband has sailed to Aleppo as master of a ship called the Tiger. I'll sail there in a sieve, turn myself into a tailless rat, and do such things to him, and I'll do, and I'll do, and I'll do. Crunch, crunch. I'll give you a wind to sail there. You are kind. And another. All right, so they're planning and plotting against someone. I myself control all the other winds, along with the ports from which they blow and all the directions on the sailor's compass. I'll drain him dry as hay. Sleep won't visit him, either at night or day. He will live as a cursed man. For 9 times 9 weeks, he will waste away in agony. I cannot make his ship disappear, but I can rack it with storms. Ooh. So they're talking about the evil things that they're going to do to someone. All right, look what I have here. Show me, show me. Here, I have a pilot's thumb, drowned as home he did come. Boom, boom, a drum, a drum. Macbeth has come. So I want you to notice that these witches rhyme. All right, there's importance in that. We're going to talk about that more We weird sisters hand in hand, swiftest travelers on sea and land, dance about like so, 3 times to yours and 3 times to nine, 3 times again to add up 9. Enough. The charm is ready. So we see the number 3, and we see a spell that has been cast. All right, so we have Macbeth and we have Banquo. Do not forget, Banquo is Macbeth's best friend. Remember, I told you names mean things, like Banquo and Banquet sound the same. And you're going to kind of get to see how that ties in later. So let's get to the story. All right, here's Macbeth. I've never seen a day that was once so foul and so fair all at once. How far is it supposed to be to Forest? There goes that foul and fair. Never seen a day so good and bad. All right, so they're walking. They look and they're surprised and they see the witches. What are these creatures so withered and wildly dressed? They look like nothing on earth, and yet here they stand. Are you alive? May a man question you? You seem to signal that you understand me by putting a gruesome finger to her skinny lips. You look like women, but your beards prevent me from believing that. Speak if you can. What kind of creatures are you? All hail Macbeth. Hail to you, Thane of Glamis. All hail Macbeth. Hail to you, Thane of Calder. All hail Macbeth, the future king. So they're given 3 prophecies here. The first one, he's going to be the Thane of Glamis. So he was already Thane of Glamis. Then it says he's going to be the Thane of Calder, which we already saw in the other scene that the other Thane of Calder has been executed. And the last one, he's going to be the future king. Now, this is interesting, right? How things are working. Okay, let's see what Banquo says. Good sir, why do you look so startled and afraid of these excellent words? So why why are you afraid of this good news? Okay, here's Banquo continuing. Tell me honestly, are you illusions or are you really what you seem to be? You greeted my noble friend with honors and predicted a future so glorious that he's gone speechless. But you said nothing to me. If you can see the future and say how things will turn out, tell me. I don't beg your favors and I don't fear your hatred. He's like, what's going to happen with me? You told my friend this good news. What's going to happen with me? Hell, 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 hell to you who are lesser than Macbeth, yet also greater. Not so happy as Macbeth, yet happier. Your descendants will be kings, though you will not. So all hell, Macbeth and Banquo. Mm. So here we go. They're talking in riddles. They're speaking in paradoxes, if you remember. They say you're going to be lesser and greater at the same time. You're going to be happy, but not so happy. Your son will be, your children will be kings, but you won't. So speaking in these paradoxes, in these riddles, okay? And so let's see what they say. Banquo and Macbeth, all hell. Okay, so Macbeth says, wait, you incomplete speakers. See, once again, he's like, y'all speaking incomplete. Tell me more. I know that I am the Thane of Glamis, but I inherited the position when my father, Senel, died. How can you all call me the Thane of Calder? The Thane of Calder lives, a rich and powerful gentleman. And for me to be king is as impossible as being Thane of Calder. Tell me where you learned this strange intelligence and why you stop us at the desolate place with this prophetic greeting. Speak, I command you. So we should be able to tell the confusion here. He's like, hey, there's a Thane of Calder already there. He's not aware of what happened at the same time in another location, right? He's not aware. But we are. Remember, that is what? Dramatic irony. Okay? When we know something that the characters do not. And we want to tell them so bad. Look, these women crazy, but they are telling some truth. All right, so let's see. When he says speak, we see what are they doing? They're disappearing and then poof. All right, let's go to the next one. The earth has bubbles just as the water has, and these creatures must have come from one. Where did they disappear to? Into the air. Their bodies melted like breath in the wind. I wish they had stayed. Did you really see the things we speak of? Or have we been drugged? Your children will be kings. You will be king. And Thana called her too. Isn't that hot wit? Exactly so. Who's this? So they're confused. And it sounds very confusing if how can someone else be king and somebody's children be kings? All right, obviously we see somebody's coming up. So let's see who's coming. The king was happy to hear of your success, Macbeth. Whenever he considers your exploits against the rebels, he becomes so amazed that he falls speechless. So here we have Ross and Lennox. All right, so we're going to continue. It says, then he imagines how you fought the armies of Norway on that same day, not the least bit afraid of death, even as you killed everything around you. Messages came like hailstones pouring down praise for your bravery in defending the kingdom. All right, so there we go. More things that shows that at this point, Macbeth is a hero, right? All these things are describing others looking up to him, about him being brave. All of that lets us know that Macbeth is our hero. All right, it says the king sent us to give you his thanks and to bring you to him. Your real reward won't come from us. And as a pledge of what's in store for you, he told me, call you Thane of Calder. So hail Thane of Calder, for that title belongs to you now. Now y'all see Macbeth right here. He's like, what? Those witches told the truth. Okay, so you see the sweat dripping. And we see Banquo looking at him in disbelief. Can the devil speak the truth? The Thane of Calder still lives. Why do you dress me in his clothing? The man who was the Thane of Calder still lives, but that life now hangs under a well-deserved death sentence. Whether he fought on Norway's side, secretly aided the rebels, or conspired with both to ruin our country, I don't know, but his treasons, which have been confessed and proven, have finished him. It's just like the witches said. So he's talking to himself now. So this is where in this box is where Macbeth is having an aside. Okay, he's speaking to himself here. It says, and just like the witches said, now I am Thane of Glamis and Thane of Calder, and the best part of their prediction is still to come true. Okay, so now he's talking back to Ross and Lennox. Thank you for the news. Okay, so here we have Banquo and Macbeth, and they're having an aside to each other. Okay, so Macbeth is speaking. Aren't you beginning to hope your children will be kings, since the witches who named me Thane of Calder promised them nothing less? All right, here's Banquo. If you trust their words, you might as well hope to become king, as well as Thane of Calder. But this is strange business. The agents of evil often tell us partial truths to lead us to their destruction. They win our trust with bits of honesty, only to betray us when it will damage us the most. Now, I hope you can see that Macbeth here has a lot of ambition. Banquo is the opposite of Macbeth here. He's very level-headed and logical. We call that a dramatic foil. All right, when one character is the opposite of another character, and he or she brings out the qualities of that character. All right, and that's the point of it. Okay, so it says, gentlemen, I'd like to have a word with you, please. The witches spoke true twice. Two happy prologues to the drama that will climax with me being crowned king. Once again, Now, I will say when you're reading this, it could be longer. So it could be where he has an aside or he has a soliloquy. But remember, this is an abbreviated version as well as more of a modern English version. And so some speeches are not as long as they would typically be in the text, in a standard text, and when it's not in Shakespearean English. All right, so he's having a soliloquy here, so he's still speaking to himself. Murder is still just a fantasy, and yet the mere thought of committing it shakes my soul apart. My ability is stifled by my thoughts and speculations. The only things that matter to me now are things that don't really exist. Now, I want y'all to notice those witches didn't say anybody had killed anybody, but he already at this point is ambitious, right? So Macbeth is already put in his mind, will I have to murder in order to be king? This is not good. All right, not good. Okay. So here are the others looking over at him. Look at Macbeth. He's in a daze. If fate wants me to be king, why, perhaps fate will take care of it, and I don't have to do anything. See, that's what we would like, him not to do anything, right? But let's keep going. He's not used to his new titles. They're like new clothes. They won't fit properly until he's had time to break them in. Come, what must happen, will happen. Good Macbeth, we're ready when you are. I beg your pardon? My dull brain was distracted, kind gentlemen. Whenever I think of this day, I remember the troubles you've taken on my behalf. Think about what happened today, and when we both had time to consider things, let's talk. Very gladly. Until then, we've said enough. So they're whispering with each other, like, look, don't say anything about what happened with those witches. Keep that to yourself. All right? And so we have Ross and Lennox saying, come, friends. All right, that is the end of scene 2. Okay, we have a juicy story going on. All right, let's go to scene 4. Act 1, scene 4. Okay, we see the king here. Has the former Thane of Calder been executed yet? Haven't the people in charge of that mission returned? My lord, not yet, but I spoke with someone who saw Calder die, and he said that Calder openly confessed his treasons, begged your highness forgiveness, and repented deeply. He never did anything in his whole life that reflected on him so well as the way he behaved when leaving that life. It was as if he had carefully prepared himself to toss away his most cherished possession as he died, as if he were a worthless trinket. Poor, I mean, he was a traitor. You just feel bad for anybody that's dying. It says, there's no way to read a man's mind by looking at his face. I trusted Calder completely. Okay. So right here we have some foreshadowing. He's saying, hey, you can't trust people when you look at them. Now, we already know what somebody's thinking about, what Macbeth is thinking about, right? Because he's already has murder on his mind. Speaking of Macbeth, here he is. My worthy kinsman, just this moment I was feeling guilty for the ingratitude I've shown you. You have done so much for me, so fast that it has been impossible to reward you properly. If you deserved less, then perhaps my payment could have matched your deeds. All I can say is that I owe you more than I could ever repay. The opportunity to serve you is its own reward. Your own duty, your highness, is to accept our tributes. Your people are like your children or your servants by doing everything we can to protect, love, and honor you. We only do as we should. All right. So Macbeth is giving honor to his king. You are welcome here. By making you Thane of Calder, I have planted seeds of a great career for you, and I will see to it that they grow. Noble Banquo, you deserve no less than Macbeth, and everyone should know it. Let me embrace you and hold you in my heart. Whatever I accomplish, it is a credit to you. All right, so Banquo is also saying, hey, I owe you, sir. But Malcolm shall not receive honors alone. Titles of nobility will shine, stars on all them who deserve. My joy is so overwhelming it brings tears to my eyes. Sons, kinsmen, lords, and all those closest to me will be my witnesses as I bestow my kingdom on my eldest son, Malcolm. Today I make him the Prince of Cumberland. All right, so he's going to make his son the Prince of Cumberland, but as he said, he's not going to do it on that day. For today, he wants to make sure that the stars, and remember the stars right here are Banquo and Macbeth, that they receive their just due. Um, so, and now, Macbeth, we go to your castle at Inverness, where your hospitality will make me even more obliged to you. Any time not spent in your service is labor, not rest. All right, so this is Macbeth answering the king back and telling him, hey, sure, you can come to my house. Okay. I'll be the messenger myself and bring my wife the joyful news on your reproach. I humbly take my leave. Okay. So King saying, I'm going to your house, where you're going to welcome me. And Macbeth saying, I'm going to tell my wife and about everything that happened. Okay. Here's the king, my worthy Thane of Calder. And here is Macbeth. Malcolm, the Prince of Cumberland. He lies in my path to the throne. I'll either have to step over him or give him stars. Hide your light so that no one can see the black and deep desires within me. Let my eyes ignore what my hands do, and yet let the things that I'd be horrified to see come to pass. So he knows he shouldn't feel this way about the king. And the king, he's related to the king, so he knows that he shouldn't feel this way. He knows that he shouldn't feel like he should have to kill Malcolm, but he's saying, so hide these stars, hide these evil things within me. He doesn't want to feel that way, but he does. All right. So let's see the king, what he says. Is true, worthy Banquo, Macbeth is every bit as valiant as you said, and I am satisfied with these praises of him. Let's follow after him now that he has gone ahead to prepare our welcome. He is a man without equal. All right. Um, so we see what's happening. We see right now the king once again trusts Macbeth, and let's see what happens. All right, so we're going to go to scene 5 now. Okay. So here we have Lady Macbeth. She's cute. Cute headband, right? It said, so, and here is a letter, and this letter is from, you guessed it, her boo, her bae, from Macbeth. Okay. I met them on the day of my victory in battle, and I have since learned that their knowledge far surpasses our mortal understanding. When I burned to question them further, they turned into air and vanished. While I stood spellbound, messengers from the king arrived and greeted me as the Thane of Calder, which is precisely how the Weird Sisters had saluted me before, hailing me as a future king. All this I have thought to tell you, my dearest partner in greatness, so that you could rejoice along with me, rather than remaining ignorant of the greatness that is promised to you. Keep it a secret in your heart, and farewell. So if we notice here, basically, Macbeth has really summarized what's happened with the witches, the prophecies. The other thing we need to be mindful of is when we have a Shakespearean play, um, the it was important during that time to give a summary of what happened in the case someone was, stepping into this part. So playwrights such as Shakespeare would have given a summary of the particular incidents, okay, so that the audience would know. All right, so we have Lady Macbeth, and she begins to speak. You are Thane of Glamis and Calder. You will be king, as promised. But I worry whether you have what it takes to seize the crown. You're too full of the milk of human kindness to strike aggressively at the first opportunity. So she like, you gonna be king, babe. You know, she's saying that to herself, but she feels like he's too much of the milk of human kindness. Um, Thinking of milk, like breast milk being like a baby, you know, so she feels like he's too immature um, in that sense. Okay. Um, Too kind to do the things that it takes to be king. Okay, because right now a king's in place and he has children um, stepping in line next. All right, so she's continuing her soliloquy. You want to be powerful and you don't lack ambition, but you lack the wickedness that should that accompany that ambition. The glory you wish for, you want to achieve righteously. You won't cheat, yet you want what doesn't belong to you. You wish for that thing, great glamis, that caused you to commit a terrible act, and you wish to see that act done, but are you too afraid to commit it yourself? Hurry home, and I will pour my fighting spirit into your ear, and with my brave words, I'll drive away everything that stands between you and the golden crown, which fate and witchcraft had already placed on your head. So she's like, look, I'm going to take some of my spirit, put that in you. Okay. All right. So we see we have a messenger. What news do you bring? The king comes tonight. You must be mad. Isn't Macbeth with the king? And if the king were really coming, wouldn't Macbeth have told me in advance so I could prepare? Please, lady, it's the truth. Our Thane is coming. He sent a messenger ahead of him who arrived here so out of breath that he could barely speak his message. Take good care of him, then. He brings great news. So the messenger is hoarse, like a raven he croaks, Duncan's fatal entrance into my fortress. Come, you spirits that assist murderous thoughts, take away my womanhood and fill me from head to toe with deadly cruelty. Thicken my blood and stop up my veins so I can't feel pity, so that no human compassion can stop my vicious plan or prevent me from accomplishing it. Come to the woman's breast and turn my milk into poison, you murdering demons. Wherever it is, you wait invisibly, waiting to do evil. Come, thick night, and shroud the world in the darkest smoke of hell, so that my razor like knife can't see the wound it cuts open, and heaven can't peep through the darkness to cry, no, stop. All right. So, this is one of the most popular um, soliloquies in all of Macbeth. When Lady Macbeth talks about basically, you know, unsex me is what it typically says. So she's saying, you know, take away what would be my female attributes, my nurturing attributes, my breast milk, and turn that into poison so that she can do the deed, which means so that she can be a part of the act of getting rid of the king so her husband can be king as the witches um, prophesied. Okay, here's Macbeth. Great Glamis, worthy Calder, and sooner greater than both, by the witch's proclamation. Your letter has transported me beyond the present moment where I wait in ignorance and makes me feel the future. So that letter has her ready for him to be king. My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight, and when does he leave? Tomorrow, according to his plan. That day will never come. So this is Lady Macbeth saying that day won't come. Your face, my lord, is an open book that tells strange stories in order to deceive people. You must appear as they expect you to look. Greet the king with a welcoming expression in your eyes, in your hands, and in your words. You should look like an innocent flower, but be like the serpent that hides beneath it. All right, so basically, she wants him to be two-faced, right? So she wants him to be to look like he is trustworthy, But in actuality, we know what she wants him to do, right? Lady Macbeth again. The king is coming and must be cared for. Let me handle tonight's preparation, for tonight will change all our nights and days to come. We will speak further about this. Just greet our guests with a clear face, looking troubled, always arousing suspicion, and leave all the rest to me. So Lady Macbeth, she's putting stuff into her own hands. Okay. Ooh. All right, let's look at scene 6 to see what happens. Okay, we see we're at the castle. So this is giving us our city. The next scene. This castle is a pleasant place. The sweet air appeals to my finer senses. Once again, we have, right, dramatic irony. Okay, he thinks it's pleasant and it's inviting, but he doesn't know what Macbeth and Lady Macbeth have planned. All right, so that's Duncan. So let's go ahead. And so here we have, if I'm correct, we have Banquo. This summer bird, the house martin lovingly builds his nest here, proving that the breath of heaven blows through Inverness's breezes. There isn't a single protrusion in the castle walls that doesn't have a bird's bed or cradle hanging from it. I've observed that these birds are always breed and haunt where the delicate air is. So here we have Banquo. No, he feels like something's out of order with nature. And we talked about the importance of that, right? Look, here comes our honored hostess. Sometimes being loved is inconvenient, and yet we still must cherish it as love by coming here and taking advantage of your hospitality. I teach you to thank God for the trouble I caused you, since that trouble is a sign of my love for you. All the trouble we take for you, even if it were doubled and then doubled again, is nothing compared to the honors you have piled upon our family. We gladly welcome you as our guest with gratitude for both honors you bestowed in the past and the new honors so recently heaped upon the old. So this is Lady Macbeth speaking. Now I want you to notice that this is verbal irony. She's saying one thing here, such as when she says, you bestowed the honors in the past and recently heaped them upon us. So like what honors we're gonna have when you die is what she really means. So verbal irony is saying one thing when you mean another. All right, here is the king. Where is Macbeth, the Thane of Calder? We followed closely on his horse's heels and had hoped to arrive here before him, but he rides swiftly. No doubt his great love for you, which is as sharp as his spurs, helped him speed before us. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight. We are your servants, your highness, and as always, our house and ourselves are at your disposal. For after all, we keep all this in your trust, and we're glad to return to you what's yours. Give me your hand. Bring me to my host. I love him dearly and shall continue to favor him with my grace. By your leave, hostess. All right, that ends off scene 6. Now we're going to move to our next scene, which is scene 7. Act 1, scene 7. So we see here we are at the feast. So this is the feast at Macbeth's castle. And you know, the king is here. And so this is what we have going on. All right, they're preparing for the feast. Right here, they're sitting down for the feast. And so here we have Macbeth. And he is having once again, a soliloquy. If doing the deed would end this business, then it would be best to do it quickly. If the assassination could sweep my future clear like a net, if only this murder could be the be-all and end-all of this entire affair, and here in this little island of my mortal life, I would risk my soul in the next world. But crimes such as these always have punishments in this world. and that our whole violence simply teaches bloody lessons to others, and then those students return to plague their teachers. Justice, being fair minded, forces us to drink from our own poisoned cup. The king trusts me twice over, first as his kinsman and his subject, and I have sworn to protect him. So he's related to the king distantly, and he's his subject, meaning he's underneath the king, right? But he's still having these evil thoughts. He says, I am sworn to protect him, and as his host, I should be barring the door against a murderer, not wielding the knife myself. Besides, Duncan has worn his authority so mildly and kept himself so pure that when he dies, his virtues will trumpet like angels against the wickedness of his murder. Pity like a naked newborn babe will ride the stormy winds, or else winged angels on invisible horses will blow news of the horrible deed into every eye, so that the people's tears drown the air. I have nothing to spur me into careful action. All I have is this wild ambition, which might make me vault too high only to crash on the other side. So he knows he's ambitious. He's overly ambitious. He knows that. He's here, he's contemplating, should I do it? Should I not? You know, and one thing I said is, one thing about a tragic hero is we feel a feeling of catharsis, which means we feel sympathetic towards that hero, that tragic hero, even though we feel like, boy, don't do it, you know? All right, so we see here we have Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. All right, so here's Macbeth. What news do you have? She says, he has almost finished dinner. Why did you leave the banquet hall? He asked for me. Don't you know he has? Okay, so Macbeth says, we can't go on with this plan. The king has just honored me, and I've earned the good opinion of all sorts of people. These glories should be worn now while they are fresh, not tossed away so soon. So he's like, hey, let me be great. Let me be great. I've just gotten this honor, and now I'm talking about killing this man. Now listen to his wife. What happened to your dream? Was it drunk when it had these plans? And did it go to sleep only to wake up green with sickness and pale in fear for his former boldness? From now on, I consider your love to be just as fickle. So she like, boy, you're fickle. Okay, what happened? Are you afraid to be the same man in action as you are in your desires? So she like, look, if you desire to do it, follow through. In action as you are in your desires, will you take the crown you want so badly, or will you live as a coward, always saying, I can't? Once you say, I want to, just like the poor cat in the old story who wanted fish but dared not to get her paws wet. So look, she is running it, okay? I pray you stop. I dare to only what is proper for a man to do. He who dares to do more is no man at all. So he's like, I need to do the right thing. That's only what a man does. Now listen to Lady Macbeth. If not a man, then what beast made you share this plan with me? Why you told me if you're not going to do anything? When you dared not to do it, then you were a man. And if you dared to be greater than you are, then you would be so much more a man. Neither the time nor the place was right before, and yet you were ready to go ahead with it. Now the time and the place are perfect, but that very perfection alarms you. I have suckled a child and know how sweet it is to love the babe at my breast. But even as it smiled up at me, I would have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed his brains out if I had sworn to do it as you have sworn to do this. Okay, so she goes deep. She's like, look, you need to be a man. You need to man up. And she's saying that if she said she was, even if she had a child and she was going to nurse a child, if she said she was going to kill that child, she would kill that child because she said she was going to do it. She's hardcore, y'all. She's hardcore. I mean, she just is. But what if we fail? This is Macbeth. Lady Macbeth says, we fail. Just lock your courage to your crossbow, and we can't fail. When Duncan, so here's her plan now. She's going to plan it out. When Duncan is asleep, the day's hard journey assures that he will sleep soundly. I'll ply his two chamberlains with wine and song so that their memories escape like smoke through a chimney. So basically, she's going to make them drunk. When they lie asleep like pigs, so drunk that they're dead to the world, what won't you and I be able to do to the unguarded Duncan? What won't we be able to pass off on his drunken servants who will bear the guilt of our great crime? May you breed men children only, for your steely spirit should form nothing but males. Once you have covered the two servants with blood and used their very daggers to commit the deed, won't people believe that they were the culprits? Who dare think otherwise when we grieve and clamor so loudly over Duncan's death? So he's like, you know what, you so hardcore, you only need male sons. So this tells you a lot about male and female roles that are the typical roles. He's saying you step out of that typical role. So you should have male children because you are acting like a male. Um, and so, Macbeth is saying, once we cover the men in blood and um, give the servants the daggers, people would think that they're the guilty ones. And she's like, yeah, that's right. That's the plan. And she said, especially when we start screaming so loudly and grieving so loudly over Duncan. All right, here we have Macbeth. I'm settled and will exert every muscle in my body to commit this crime. Go now and mock the night with your hospitality. Hide with a false pleasant face what you know in your false evil heart. So he said, all right, let's do this. You evil in your heart, but and you hide in that. So go on and hide your evil on your face. Hide that too. Okay. And that is the end of Act 1. All right. So hopefully that helps you to understand more about Macbeth and the graphic novel version of Macbeth. This is the No Fear graphic novel, and I think it's a really good novel. So stay tuned to a very good graphic novel version of Macbeth. So stay tuned for Act 2.